Welcome to Fuji Wing YouTube channel. This video is a complementary to the Medium publication, a secure.NET Core 6 web API with JWT from Duende IdentityServer. In this video, I'm going to go over the tool sets to support the demo. There are three. One is the IdentityServer Admin UI project in Visual Studio, Web Admin project in Visual Studio, and Postman. Then I'm going to do a quick overview of the client API token service, also called CAT architectures. See how these tools fit together in that framework. Then I'm going to run the Postman utility to obtain JWT from the IdentityServer. Enter that JWT into Swagger to test run secure web API. So let's first take a look at the tool sets here. One is the token service admin UI project. From the you can follow the instruction in the Medium publication to download this project solution from GitHub. Basically, this one is an admin UI for IdentityServer. The second tool is also another Visual Studio project. This is the web API. Again, this can be downloaded from the GitHub if you follow the instruction in the Medium publication. It's called My Onion API, but in here it has this project with the controllers, and it's used for to an example of API resources, REST API type. The third tool is the Postman. This is typically used by developer to test connectivity to web API during the development. This is the very popular tool, and it's available for free. Just search Google for Postman, and you can download and make it available on your developer desktop. All right, so let's go back to the first tool is the token service admin UI. I'm going ahead and run it, and then we'll take a look at how these tools fit into the CAT framework. Let me also run the example web API, My Onion web API here. All right, so let's take a look and see how these Visual Studio projects and Postman tool, how they fit together. So for modern architectures, what we typically see, there's clients, application, client apps, what we call client apps. And then there is a separate token service out there to provide token to the application. For this example, it's going to use the Duende IdentityServer, but there are plenty other cloud tool out there can do the same, like Azure, IdentityServer, etc. And then here, the API resource, these are typically done by developer to provide like REST API, where this is where you have your API connect to the database and retrieve the data and serialize the data into JSON and provide that to the client. So we have two Visual Studio projects. One of them is the token project admin. In that solution, there are three projects, and each project, when we run it, it runs on different port. So there's the UI to look at view different client setup and in the through the web. So we have that token project admin, and it's run on port 44303. The token service is run on port 44310, and the web API that allowed the admin UI to persist the data set up to the database is run on port 44302. The example web API, MyOnion API web is run on port 44378. So what this architectures allow us to have a visual, the Postman client going to be make a call to the identity server, the token service, to retrieve the JWT token. Okay, so go this way. And then after that, Postman could technically go use that token and then calling this web API and run the secure endpoint by passing the JWT as part of the authorization in the header. But for this demonstration, this video, after Postman gets the JWT from the token service here, we're going to go to Postman and cut and paste that JWT and then go to this API, example web API here, log into the Swagger, and then put that token into the Swagger to authorize it so that we can run the secure endpoint within Swagger. So that, with that, let's go ahead and just take a quick look at the secure the Duende admin UI and what it looks like before we run to run the Postman. All right, so let's take a look at the login here. Let me do a log out and log back in. So this when we're running the solution that have the identity server admin UI, it's gonna prompt to log in. The Medium publication has the instruction how to log in with the username and password. So we put that and click on login. The admin UI display different type of configuration settings within the identity server. For today, just going to take a look at the clients one here. When you start the service for the run the Visual Studio solution for the identity server admin UI for the first time, it has two JSON file that automatically set up a few clients. So I have done this because in the past I have published different blogs to show how to connect to identity server using Angular or Blazor or React. So there's a few of them in here, but today we're going to use Postman to connect to identity server. So let's take a look at this Postman client. So this one, I have the client right here, and it have the name, client ID. This need to be going to the Postman settings when we're calling this, try to get the token. Some basic configuration right here. Just want to point it out that there's some example scope set up that will be specified in the Postman, and the type of allow grants type is client credential. So if you you can download this project and run it and experiment with it more, but that's a very high level. That certain information need to pass in from Postman in order to get the token. Before I go to the Postman, let's take a look at example web API. So I ran the example web API earlier, and this is what it looked like. The example web API has some endpoints here, resources here, employees resource, and position resource. Some of these REST API endpoint are secure, some are not. For example, employee is not secure. So if I click on get right here, I can try it out. I'm going to execute it, and then it will provide information down here. But some endpoint, like when you recruit, insert, or update, or delete, it will require security. So that's just an example. And the one I'm going to focus on today is the add mark. So there's the example web API. By default, when it's run for the first time, it's going to initialize about initialize 1,000 position. But if we want to add additional row for testing, let's say you want to do load testing, you want to add another 1,000 or 10,000, or maybe you want to scale up to 100,000 row, for example. Add mark can endpoint, I can allow to do that. Let me click on post right here. And very simple, add mark right here, all you have to do is enter in a row count, like you want to add 10 rows to it, 20 rows to it. The example web API use the most very popular called bogus library, so that when it's add position, it will using bogus API to generate really nice, real to like production type of data. So if I go ahead and run this endpoint right now, post right here, and in the source code, I'm not going to go over that, but in the source code, in the controller, it specifies this endpoint require authorized. That means it requires a token. If I don't supply the token and run it now, click on execute it, it's supposed to display errors, status, hey, 401, oops, you don't have the token, you're not authorized to do this. So how do we get the token? That's where Postman coming in. So let me switch to Postman here. I have set up a few group of Postman requests in here. One is to talk to the token service. So let me take a look at that and kind of like show what it's look like. I have two requests in here. One is a get. This get is just simply calling the token service identity server and say, give me the well-known endpoint. So the URL is this. Earlier, I already showed the architecture diagram where identity server is run on port 44310, and then .well-known, .open ID configuration. These are all OAuth2 standard. So click on send right here. You can see that it will return the name of the issuer, and then a bunch of well-known endpoints. And notice that one of the well-known endpoints in here called token endpoint. So this is what I'm going to use for the next request, and this one we will require do a post. So in order to get a token, we're going to do a call to that token endpoint, and then there are certain parameters that we need to pass it in order to get the token back. Okay, so let's take a look at the information that pass into. So for example, client ID. Client ID, earlier I logged into the admin UI of the identity server and kind of like go over the Postman ID and the client secret. So information in order to get this need to come from the identity server, and that can be looked up through the admin UI. This client Postman client was set up with the grant type called client credential, and there's a few scope that was set it up for testing purpose. And with that, I can click on send, and you can see the output down here. It will show that, hey, the identity server have returned a JSON, and it have values such as the access token, the expire in token type is a bearer, and then the scope. Okay, so it's Postman successfully retrieve this access token from the identity server. So let's take a look at this. Let's copy this. Okay, so it is technically possible to call and run REST API endpoint from Postman, but however, there's if endpoint doesn't require the token, then you can run it fine, but this endpoint require the token, and we just need to pass that through Postman authorization header for it to work. So I have another group here of requests. This is a little bit outside the scope right here, but I thought I'd just do a quick show and tell here that technically we as a developer we can also test all those endpoints within Postman. Here is an example of get employees. The example web API running on port 44378, and here's the endpoint to get a list of employees right here. There's no authorization need because it's allow anonymous access. I click on send, and I get a bunch of 10 employees back. Another example is get positions endpoint right here. Again, the example web API is 44378. And this is a list of position right here. Click on send, and that's what I see. A bunch of position title coming back. Let's take a look at the add mark right here. Now that I have the token, right? This is the endpoint for the add mark. I can specify it in here, and then in the authorization the Postman, there's one called bearer2 and the token right here. I'm going to cut and paste the token. I just got it out from the post token request out here, paste it in here. In the body, earlier I showed in the Swagger that yeah, we can change the row count to from 0 to 10 so that we can run and add 10 sample row into the web API. So now I have the the correct token, the body, and I can click on send, and let's say the endpoint say yeah, you're good. It's 10 row have been added and it went successfully. Now if you want to try this on your own, make sure that on the body right here you have the row count go to 10, and then the type of data is called raw, and make sure you change it to JSON on a type of data. I think by default Postman will just have text. All right, so now we have the token. How can we put that token into the Swagger so we can run and test the endpoint? So typically in a large shop where you might have developers like just focus on development, but then when it's time to testing web API, they may be a business analyst or maybe a developers, end user doing that. So Swagger is the tool for that. Let's take a look at the Swagger here, and we're going to go back to the Swagger for the example web API called My Onion API here. So earlier I showed that when I try to run the add mock right here, and I put in the row count of 10, I click on execute, it doesn't work. It's complaining that status error code 401, which is not authorization fail. So the example web API has the option called authorize up here. This is where I can input the token that I got from the Postman. So you put in bearer space and put in the token here. There's a little instruction up here as well how to enter the token. We're going to click on authorize. All right, then I close the screen. So now token have been entered. The lock is now show there. And if I go back to the post, the add mark right here, post, and if I'm gonna run it this time, and hopefully it's gonna work. Click on execute here, and yeah, it's working now. The response body is come back as good. So that's it for the demo. I went over the tools, how they connect together, and what is Postman used for. You can retrieve the token. You can also connect point directly to the web API and run it within Postman. or once you get the token, just simply go switch over to the Swagger of the API resource and enter in the token, and then you can test run all of this. So it's the make it easier to when you see everything on the screen here. So that's it for the tutorial, the demo here, and I hope you like it. I'll see you next time.